everyone, it's Esabelle. I am just popping in for a moment to let you know that the video you're about to see was originally filmed for my channel and that it was later determined after the filming that it would be aired on Paul's channel. So that's why some of our wording is so obviously geared toward my channel. Just wanted to let you guys know why it may sound a little odd. With that said, please enjoy the video. Hey everyone, it's Esabelle and welcome back to my channel. I have a special guest, the Catholic gaming nerd.
Why, thank you. I'm glad to be here. Although I do wonder what you classify as a special guest and not just a guest.
Well, you're not normally on the channel.
I guess that's true, yeah, because we live like so many states apart.
Well, we are going to do an extra special episode because he is an ISTJ.
I am?
Okay, he is during this visit, we read off a description of ENFP, which he was been mistyped as, I don't know how, but somehow he was mistyped once as ENFP, and we read the description just to see how much it does not fit him.
Some parts of it do, but most of it doesn't.
We're talking like 0.0003% maybe.
You originally said 5%.
I was being generous.
Oh, okay.
Very generous. But since we are going to have him as our special guest, and INFJs are quite different, then we are going to talk about how such a different type than him can earn his trust.
I will say right off the bat that I do believe that anyone is capable of pretty much anything as far as personality types. So henceforth, I'm not going to be using any terminologies like the cognitive functions or the letters. I'm just going to be myself. If you guys want to mistype me in the comments, go for it. But I just want you to feel like you're getting my true, authentic portrayal, regardless of what type I am.
Alrighty, then let's get started. So, what would you say if you were going to name 3 to 5 things that really enhances your trust of someone? What would those be?
I'm not sure if I can boil it down to things per se, more so of, I think I suppose this is one thing. If someone puts me into a position where they would normally be a very untrustworthy person, and then they don't end up hurting me, that ends up making me want to trust them more. Additionally, if something reminds me of the past, like if I'm like, oh, this person reminds me of how a trustworthy person that I met before is like, then the pattern is similar enough where I can say, okay, well, I suppose I could trust this person because I trusted this person before. I know that's not always the greatest mindset to have, but...
Not always, but some traits do correlate.
Yeah, and then when it comes to you specifically, because I know you're probably going to answer that, I'm anticipating that question. I think you just were so anti-stereotypical that it sort of helped me loosen up a little bit, because I was like really worried about, because at first you reminded me a lot of a friend that I used to have, and I was worried that you had a lot of her same standards, and then it turned out you guys are actually quite different. But I'm not really sure where I'm going with this, so maybe you can give a more structured question.
Alrighty, well, you mentioned that I'm not stereotypical. Very curious to know what non-stereotypical, how I am that.
Are you talking about INFJs or just you in particular?
You said that I'm not stereotypical, so let's talk about me. How am I not stereotypical?
Okay, so I know I said I didn't want to use the cognitive functions, but I will, because you guys apparently haven't been introduced to it yet, but I will use the letters a little bit. INFJs are known as the logical feelers. So a lot of times
Guilty as charged.
they can be surprisingly logical despite the fact that they are F-types. And I was kind of worried that you would use a lot of your logic to try to undermine my feelings because you were spotting a potential negative outcome that didn't exist. Because I'm all about, I want people to tell the truth, even if it hurts me. And I was worried that she would break the friendship because of something that I did not do and that I was not guilty of, but because she thought it was a problem, that would override my feelings, because that is what INFJs are known for doing. at times. It's called the INFJ door slam. She's made a video about it.
Yes, I do try to be diplomatic whenever I confront you about things, but I will tell you about things whenever it is.
Well, I think we're at the point where I don't think that's going to happen. But I was worried about that at first because of that reputation INFJs have. And another thing is that INFJs are known for being incredibly stubborn because let's just say that they tend to use their own reasoning a heck of a lot more than I do. And that can lead to them coming across as though, like, I have no clue where you got that logic from. Where are the facts? Where are the sources? And at first, I thought that you were picky and choosy about which sources you believed because they didn't fit with your logic. But then over time, I started to realize that you actually are quite source-based. Like, you are always saying, I need to make sure that this is backed up by science and that the experts have given their opinions on this. And that's what I do all the time. So I said, well, if she's able to do that for just regular concepts, maybe she'll do that for me as well.
Yeah, whenever I was earning my psychology bachelor's degree, you can't pass classes by just saying, well, this makes sense to me, therefore, please accept it as fact. It doesn't work that way. So whether or not that comes naturally is debatable, but I am certainly trained into that at this point in my life.
Yeah, and I appreciate it.
What are some things that make you distrust someone?
Lying is a pretty big one. I don't like it when people are fake in any way. So to give an example, she's helping me out with some of the projects on my channel, and some of them involve acting. And I've always told her, like, I don't want her to straighten her hair because her hair is naturally wavy. I said that if she were ever to do gender bending cosplaying, that I didn't want her to put on, like, fake facial hair. Like, women grow facial hair, maybe not as much as men, but they do. So I said, if you're going to use facial hair, grow out what you actually have. I didn't want there to be any kind of act or persona or anything that would make her seem like she was unnatural. So if that applies to, like, stating a blatant falsehood, trying to show yourself in a way that you're not, that makes me a bit leery of people. Another thing that I think makes me distrust people is when they don't have a good grasp on morality. Because I'm all about wanting to make sure that my morals are not undermined. And when a person is more like they create their own morals as opposed to, like, trying to follow God's laws, or even if you're not, even if you don't follow God's laws, if you're at the very least following some kind of system like common courtesy or etiquette, if you're just, like, making things up as you go along, saying, like, well, this I agree with, but this I don't, then I'm not going to trust you very much. I'm kind of scared that I'm not answering these questions properly because
I think you're doing just fine.
That's good.
I think that everyone is getting a pretty good grasp of how you work.
In terms of trust?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think so.
I hope so. You guys better tell me in the comments because I'm going to be reading them as much as she is.
Tell him in the comments how he's doing because I think he's doing just fine. Now, if someone breaks your trust, they want to repair your trust, how would they do that? Or
apologizing.
Okay.
Just a sincere apology is usually good enough for me because I don't know how much you've watched of my YouTube channel, but I don't have too many nice things to say about the INFJ door slam. I don't like the idea of someone going so far in a distrustful manner that they can never, ever repent. Because I'm a Catholic, and God says, you know, be willing to forgive your brother as many as 7 times. And I have had some friends that have unfriended me multiple times and kept coming back and say, let's be friends again. And I'd say, okay, sounds good. Maybe I'm a bit naive, but, like, usually it's a simple apology is enough. But then I also make, like, boundaries to ensure that that doesn't happen again. Like, for instance, if, say, someone cheats on me, I would say, I forgive you, but now I'm going to monitor how much you spend time with people of the opposite sex. So that I can establish some kind of, yes, I forgive you, but because we as humans have temptations, we have to set things in place so that the temptations aren't as existent.
Yeah. So without getting too personal, you can get as personal as you want to get on this next question. What are some boundaries that you expect people that you trust to keep?
I think I might have already answered this before, but, like, lying, I don't want people to lie. I want them to always tell the truth, even if it hurts me. Maybe maybe like be tactful about telling the truth, but don't tell me an absolute fabrication.
I'm not one to slap people with words, so I prefer diplomacy.
Could you repeat the question?
So what are some boundaries you like people to keep around you?
To trust them?
Yeah, I mean, boundaries are kind of a pillar of trust, so yes.
Let's see, for trust. Usually I like it when people initiate the trust. It's pretty rare for me to just reach out to someone and say, I trust you, without someone making the first move. Pretty much everything in our friendship has been her first. Like, she was the one that commented on my channel first. She was the one that suggested that we start talking on Twitter. You were the one that suggested we go on Facebook, but I still didn't trust that enough. So you said well, how about the phone?
Yes, if I like phone much better than that.
And then I don't remember which one of us first suggested the visit, but I think regardless of who it was, you were the one that suggested coming to visit me at the very least. Because you said you wanted to make it fair. You said, I want to make sure that we both visit each other.
Yes, I do think that's the fair way to do it, and I still have yet to come through on that, but he already knows that there's a lot of circumstances in my life that have prevented me, but it will happen.
Yeah, I certainly don't want to force her to be uncomfortable in order to make a promise. I am, as long as it happens before either of us dies, I'm happy with that. I know I can be morbid at times, but I can sometimes jump to worst case scenarios way more than she can.
He can do that more than I can, yes.
I've sometimes gotten worried that she's dead if she takes too long to respond to my stuff.
Yes, I try not to let you wait too long unless I just absolutely have to.
Well, you're actually getting really good at it ever since you discovered that you can send text, not text to speech, but literal
audio
voice messages that you just view in your text instead of opening your voicemail.
It's so much faster, guys. I'm a slow typer.
I've even said that she comes across as more of an SJ, because they're typically much faster at responding than her type.
I take that as a compliment coming from you.
I said almost.
I choose to take it that way.
I think I compliment you quite a lot, all things considered. I know my type, or whatever I am, isn't particularly known for complimenting, but I do try my best to express my gratitude to you, and I try my best to make sure that you know how much you mean to me.
He is very expressive.
I am?
That, yes.
About that, you said.
Not facial expression, but to verbally expressive, yes.
Yeah, I make up for my lack of animated expressions with my words.
Yes,
at least I'd like to think I do.
He does.
But I will say, it did take a long time for me to actually write out in words, I trust you. I think it took about maybe half a year, I think.
Something like that, but we only knew each other online, and that's hard to trust someone online. You don't really know them until you see them in person.
That's true.
So it's understandable.
But I do feel like you trusted me almost right away, or at least you gave me those vibes, whereas there were still some things where you would ask me something and I would say, I don't know if I'm ready to say that yet.
Yeah.
Whereas you, oh my gosh, you were practically an open book from almost since day one. I said practically.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can be pretty trusting, maybe too trusting, but I think that we did wait a good amount of time before we met in person, because whenever you meet someone that you met on the internet originally in person, you don't quite know who you're meeting. So it did take me longer for me to say, yes, we can meet in person.
Well, we met in met as in we first became acquainted in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
She says that's one of the only good things that came out of that year.
That was a terrible year.
But we first met up in 2022.
Yes.
So this visit here in August of 2024 is the second time we have ever seen each other in person. It's so great to be able to hug you, by the way.
Yes, it is. It's a little awkward on the bench, but we've been getting plenty of hugs.
Yeah, we've been getting a nice variety.
Since we're talking about timelines of trust, what would you say is kind of the on average time it takes for you to trust someone? And I would imagine that there are levels of trust, so you can just hit the basic average level.
I think prior to meeting her, it was probably a year or two. But ever since I've met her and I've spotted other people similar to her, it's gotten significantly faster, to the point where I'm currently talking to someone over email, and I feel like I've said to her things that I waited maybe a year to tell Esabelle, But it only took like a couple of weeks for this other person because I was like, oh yeah, I'm seeing, obviously you two have very different personalities, but
Yes, we do.
the way that you exhibit trust is very similar. And because I was like, oh, that's how Esabelle shows her trust, I felt like I could go a little bit faster.
Fair enough.
And so I think I guess you've been more, maybe a learning experience to me to be more okay with trusting faster.
Well, one last question.
Are you
So
getting
we
tired
are-
of me that easily?
Well, we did say we're going to make this video a bit shorter.
Yeah, because she
Then,
does want to
yes.
maximize our time hanging out.
And I know that we can talk over an hour like we did on the last interview,
Yeah.
and that's quite a while. So I am trying to put a cap on it, and our camera woman's back there saying, you can go as long as you
Is it a
want.
Mario cap, though?
I can always trust you to make those jokes, can't I?
All right, your last question?
Would you say that you consider yourself different from the average ISTJ that you think of?
I do think I'm pretty different. I do think I fit the stereotypes really well, but at the same time, I am a bit more on the practicality over logic side. I think most ISTJs are a bit more balanced, whereas I am all about, like, if it gets me my comfort, if it works, then whether it's emotional or logical, I'm just going to do it.
Well, I should specify in the realm of trust.
Oh,
Specifically talking about trust, since that's what the video is.
Oh, okay. So when it comes to trust, I think I might be a little bit faster than other ISTJs, but I think that's because I'm Catholic, and God wants us to see the best in people. So I often will look for, like, the traits that God tells us to look for in people that constitutes a virtuous person.
Mm-hmm.
And I have very strong values, and I want to make sure that they are upheld. And I also want to surround myself, not literally, because I can sometimes be claustrophobic, but I want to be in the midst of people that are of similar virtues to mine. Like, obviously Jesus hung out with tax collectors and sinners, but at the same time he still had his core group of disciples that were similar-minded, and there were times where he would say, like, I'm only being sent to the people of Israel, I'm not going to talk to those Gentiles just yet. So I think I'm at the point where I'm kind of sort of in the only the Israel camp, where, like, I tried to hang out with the more radical people at my previous job and they threatened me, so I'm sort of more of the similar values type of person. But I think most ISTJs are more likely to distrust a person just simply because they don't know them. Yeah, I think that's the average person anyway, but I am more willing to look at a person's virtues and how close they are to mine, as well as compare and contrast previous experiences to the present. And the more I have trustworthy people and the more virtuous they are, then the next person that comes along, I'm going to be trusting quicker. Did that answer your question well enough?
I believe it did.
You said well enough. Do you think I answered it perfectly?
Is there such a thing as perfect?
By your standards, yes, because you admitted you're a perfectionist.
Not quite what I meant. I'm not literal about that. It's a wish to be perfect whenever I say I'm a perfectionist. Besides, I'm more of an overachiever at this point in my life than I think a perfectionist.
Yeah.
But I hope you guys enjoyed that video and gained a lot of information from it. Would you like to make any closing remarks?
I would like to say that you shouldn't try too hard to fit your Myers-Briggs type. Like, if you are, say, an ENTJ and you want to be an empathetic person, don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Just do it. I also think that you shouldn't completely dismiss Myers-Briggs as just a silly theory, because there are certain truths to it. Like, when I read about my type and about her type, I was like, oh wow, they really do know me quite
It's
a lot.
amazing.
Except for the career choices, that didn't fit at all.
Yeah, but there's always going to be
You're right,
a little bit.
But, like, literally everything else fit me perfectly.
Yes.
And I was kind of amazed that someone could know me so well, but I think it's just because they have the general structure of the brain mapped out, and I'm all about, like, objective truth. I want to know the facts. I don't want to know your truth. I don't want to know my truth. I want to know the truth. And even though Myers-Briggs comes across as more of a your truth at first, once you get to studying the actual patterns, there is a certain amount of, like, okay, the brain does naturally gravitate towards certain actions. And I think if you don't understand the Myers-Briggs, then you are going to have a significantly harder time interacting with people and interacting with yourself.
All right. Well, it's so good to be able to see you again and do this in person.
Yeah, it was great.
Would you like to do your sign off?
Yeah, I'd love to. So thank you very much for watching, everyone. Please let her know in the comments how you think that we did, and let me know if I was totally terrible at this.
Comment below.
And until the next time, remember to keep the faith, stay epic, and God bless.
And remember to keep living nothing less than your best life.